Oh, what day is it? Oh, man, it's been a while since I've done a video, right? Whew. Well, thank you for joining me, everyone, for another video discussion here on Retro Geek Gaming, where we like to talk about stuff that's retro geek and mostly gaming-related stuff. If you've ever seen any of my videos before, you know the deal. So thank you for joining me. If this is your first time or if you're a repeat watcher, all three of you, I really appreciate you giving me the time out of your day to watch this video. So, what have I been up to? Well, let's just do a real quick recap that we've had the holidays. So, I've been busy with that and working, but also we've just been sick. So, we haven't really gotten a chance to get around and doing a whole lot of stuff because there was a couple of weeks there which seemed like just about every family member was having something, hacking something up, weak, achy, just all kinds of stuff going on. So I do apologize for the lack of content. It wasn't without thinking heavily about what I wanted to talk about. And something that's been on my mind for the past couple of weeks has been Marvel. And the reason why is because I've been playing all the Spider-Man games. I started with Spider-Man PS4. Went to Miles Morales, and I just wrapped up this morning and platinumed Spider-Man 2. So, having 3 platinums under my belt, what do I want to see next for Marvel? Well, we already know what one thing is coming, and that's Marvel's Blade. But, outside of that, what do you want to see? Whether it's Insomniac Games, whether it's a different developer, or just general, like we know we got Wolverine coming and we know that we got Blade coming, but who do you want to see a video game adaptation of? And these are my top picks for Marvel characters that I think should get a video game. Now, this is in no particular order. You know how I do my top picks. It's never in any particular order. I just sort of throw these ideas out there and see if anything makes sense. So, what do I want to see from a Marvel character? Well, top of my list, if I had to even say that there would be a top of the list, is Hulk. Now, we already have gotten Hulk games in the past. After all, we got Ultimate Destruction on the GameCube and, you know, back in the PS2, Xbox days and stuff like that. One of my personal favorite games from back then. But Hulk hasn't really had a game since then. And I think that with the capabilities of having a Hulk game, especially since we have a Hulk that isn't really being comic accurate lately and is even still being nerfed in the Marvel movies, it's kind of important, I think, to have a powerful Hulk that shows a lot of his villains, that shows a lot of his capabilities, and you can even have it to where you're mostly playing as Bruce Banner, and along the way, you get more powerful and you learn more abilities that unlock over time. Easily done. So, that's one. I think that a Black Panther game would work also. And we're not talking about characters that have necessarily been included in the Avengers game, because that's really kind of not fair. Because that's just like saying, because they had an Avengers game, if they put Spider-Man in it, that counts, right? No, it doesn't, because we need an individual adventure. And I think that Black Panther has enough unique abilities and enough tech that you could upgrade suits. It could almost be sort of like a Spider-Man game, but not without all the web singing. The movement could be a little bit more like stealthy. That's one of the main things that I want to see, is a more stealth-based game. Something that I loved about playing the Spider-Man games was the fact that I could be stealthy. It's a little bit over the top sometimes, I have to admit, because I'm sometimes looking directly at an enemy who doesn't get an exclamation point over his head. I'm like, what's going on here? But the fact that I could be stealthy, that I could do wall takedowns, ceiling takedowns, it was really kind of cool to be able to take my time with some of those enemy bases to take them out. So something a little bit more stealth-based I think would be good also. And gosh, you know, the more that I think about this, and the more that I sort of look back and I think of, these were the people that I thought of, why don't I just pick somebody a little bit more obscure than picking some of the mainline Marvel characters? But they seem to make sense for some reason. So the next pick that I have is actually a Doctor Strange game. And when I think about it, it becomes more along the lines of something where you learn spells and maybe can even figure out a way to combine spells. Like maybe, for an example, you can make a portal, but also have a mystic arrow kind of thing, and it sends stuff, almost like a portal game. And how you can sort of walk through it. You can use these portals to teleport and, again, be more stealthy or just be more strategic in how you approach enemies. But also you can use it for attack. Like maybe I can lay down a portal on the ground and, you know, enemies are confused by it, but then I lay a portal up against the wall and I shoot an arrow through it or something, or I shoot a mystic bomb or something that comes through the other end and explodes. There can be all kinds of fun with that. But of course you'd have to sort of keep it a little bit grounded, because you can't just have it to where I can do whatever I want and I can rewind time. Maybe you can rewind time, maybe you have the time stone still, but you use it in a way to where it's limited. And you can't just go keep rewinding. Maybe you can only use it like a Prince of Persia Sands of Time situation, to only when you're in like a deathly situation and you're going to die, so you can rewind it once or twice, but then that's it. That's about all I can think of for that. So, Captain America also, I think, would make a pretty interesting game. That one would have to be more combat focused, though, just because I think the acrobatics of a Captain America game would be super important, more so than stealth. And again, just the ability to, like, do combos off of the wall with the shield, and maybe even use the shield in some way to maybe you throw it and you stand on it and then you ground punch and all that stuff like that. I don't know. That's not up to me to figure out. So, rewinding it a little bit, again, having finished the Spider-Man games, if they do a Spider-Man 3, they're obviously setting up for the Green Goblin. I mean, it's very obvious at this point, if it's not blatantly clear that they're setting up for the Green Goblin. But also, just because they've thrown so many villains at us over the past few games, some villains that I would like to see that maybe either could get their own game, or just show up in some capacity in a future Spider-Man game, Michael Morbius. And for some reason, I want this Michael Morbius to be more of like the 1990s cartoon Michael Morbius, with the stuff on his hand that you could use to maybe, you know, draw energy, and you can use that in a way to then, I don't know, give yourself like a temporary boost, or maybe that gives you life, or maybe you draw, you know, energy from different things. If you were to do villains for games, if not, Michael Morbius showing up in a future Spider-Man game would be cool. And really let's just start getting individual villains instead of having to do team-ups all the time and multiple villains. But one of my other picks, getting back to the hero part though, and I think probably the most interesting aspect, the most interesting one to make a game out of, just because there are so many versions of them that you could play around with, and so many different ways you can do it, is Ghost Rider. I'd love to see Ghost Rider. You know, I'm sitting and thinking about, like, riding through the streets and doing, like, all kinds of God of War action stuff with chains, but also, like, maybe laying down a chain as a tripwire, and, you know, battles with demons and just all kinds of stuff like that. I think it would be really interesting to do, and then using the penance stare. All kinds of cool stuff I think can be done with Ghost Rider. But those are just some of my picks. Do you guys have any particular picks in mind? You know, who do you want to see? Because outside of just going through the usual list of suspects, you know, where we get, like, we already got a Guardians of the Galaxy, saying Ant-Man, saying, you know, Iron Man. We already have an Iron Man VR game that I guess is kind of close enough. Outside of the usual suspects, I'm trying to think of less known characters, but I think that less known characters aren't really going to sell as well. You know, there's a reason why Sony has Spider-Man instead of having some of the other Marvel characters, you know. But then, let's go to the DC side of things. But the problem that I have with DC characters is that a lot of them are just uber powerful. Like, can you imagine if I say, yes, let's do a Green Lantern game. Green Lantern can do anything! Superman can do anything! But I think that if you set it up in some ways to where it's grounded, you could probably do something like maybe a Superboy game where it's all about choices, because Superboy is a clone of Lex Luthor and Superman, so his powers won't be nearly as capable as Superman, but maybe he can fight Superman in some way. If you choose to go the villain route, and in that case it becomes like an Infamous game where you can make good or bad decisions and it changes the story a little bit. Or maybe if you do make a Superman game, it's in outer space, away from the sun, or a completely different sun, where it limits your powers for, again, a certain amount of time. You can only do a dash for so long. You can only do a Mega Punch for so long before you have to then drain out and recharge. So, with that sense, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I know we're getting a Wonder Woman game, so that's an example of how we can do DC characters. We've already gotten Batman games, but of course more Batman games would probably be interesting to do. But outside of that, I'm not too familiar with the DC universe. You know, I mean, because how would you do a Flash game? Flash is just uber powerful, and what, you don't run fast? That's kind of the point. But maybe you can make the Flash game more of a choose-your-own-adventure kind of game, and this running is only for like Zoom and the villains that you take on, because they're all speedsters. I'm sure that it can be figured out, but outside of that, I mostly wanted to focus on the Marvel characters. But who do you want to see? I'm very interested in this. I think it's a very fascinating topic to talk about as far as superheroes and their abilities and how they can be grounded more to be reflected in a game or reflected in a TV show or reflected in a movie that doesn't make them scream that they're the ultimate power in the universe. Because, I mean, if anybody is a good example of being sort of in a grounded reality, it's Green Arrow. Like, Green Arrow would probably be the best example of having a DC game made out of him, because he can just simply rely on crafting arrows, and just basically being more like, I've got this arrow here that I'm going to craft, and it's a bomb arrow. And in that case, it becomes a little bit more like Horizon Forbidden Dawn. Or, sorry, I think I got the names mixed up, but you get what I'm saying. It becomes more of a situation to where it becomes more like those other games where you craft things, but that can be fun. Because then you're actually on the lookout for, like, oh man, Merlin's out there. You know, like... And now you got to find certain arrows to defeat the enemies that you're looking to take down. Maybe it can be a zone-based game to where maybe different villains have different zones, and so you got to craft different stuff. Who knows? I'm just saying that at the end of the day, I think it'd be interesting to have more superhero games in their own world, and maybe we get some crossover somewhere. Like, I sort of hear that Spider-Man's going to show up in the Wolverine game, but who knows? But would you even want to see that? Would you even want to see Spider-Man potentially show up in a Hulk game just for the sake of, hey, if you love Spider-Man, he's in the Hulk, you should buy it and play it just to see him. That kind of defeats the purpose of people like me who are Hulk fans, or are, you know, buying the game to specifically play. You get what I'm saying. But, oh, and Venom. I think that should be very obvious, but I think it's already been kind of announced semi in that league that they're going to do Venom. Of course, how they're going to bring Venom back, who knows? We do have the whole situation of Carnage that was sort of teased in Spider-Man 2, so maybe there's still symbiotes out there, so we can get just all the symbiotes in a game. Maybe they go back to their home world or something. Who knows? There's all kinds of fascinating stuff. But I think they're taking this video on long enough, and I even kind of got way off the point. Because I just started to sort of think of all these random situations, and so I apologize. But I do thank you for watching, guys. It's always fun to do these videos, and I really wish that I could start doing more of them. But I might start taking a little bit of a step back. Maybe do them every other week to once a month, to where I really get time to think about what I want to talk about. And I really get the time to sort of get all my thoughts together and like, okay, here's a nice little 10 to 15 minute video talk about what I want to talk about. And hopefully you'll join me for that journey. If you do, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. Because again, if you have any thoughts about superheroes or even villains that maybe should get their own game, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. Otherwise, have yourself a good one, guys, and I'll see you next time on Retro Geek Gaming.